The moment I stepped out of my truck, the woman with the bright orange clipboard blocked my path like she owned the dirt under my feet. She didn't even ask my name. She just pointed her pen at me and said, "You can't be here. This is HOA property." I almost laughed because she had no idea she was standing on land that belonged to me, all 1,000 acres of it. She waved a stack of fake-looking violation slips in my face and said I had 5 minutes to leave before things get serious. But before I could answer, she grabbed her radio and whispered, "He's trespassing. Send the team." Her tone made it sound like I was some criminal hiding in their backyard. Something felt off immediately. 3 men showed up wearing matching dark polo shirts with HOA enforcement printed in tiny crooked letters. They carried zip ties like they planned to arrest me. One of them stepped forward and said, "Sir, hands where we can see them. You're violating community rules." Community rules. On my land. I kept my hands down and said calmly, "You sure you want to do this?" Karen, the clipboard woman, smirked and said, "We run everything here. You'll learn your place." They started circling me like they practiced this act before. People came out of their cabins, whispering, recording, confused about what I had done. A little girl pointed at me and asked her mom, "Why are they arresting him?" Karen answered before the mother could speak, "Because he thinks he can just walk around our community like he owns it." I felt a cold twist inside my chest. She had no idea how close she was to the truth. I unlocked my truck, reached inside, and pulled out the thick, brown folder from the passenger seat. Her eyes narrowed. She wasn't expecting that. I held it under my arm, staying silent for a moment, just to watch her confidence shake. "Last chance," she barked. "Leave or we'll remove you." The 3 fake officers moved closer, waiting for a signal from her. I could feel the tension from the watching crowd. I could feel Karen's pride swelling because she believed she had everything under control. I looked at her, then at the folder, and said quietly, "You're making a big mistake." She scoffed. "No, you are." She still didn't know this folder held something that would end her entire HOA in seconds, something none of them were ready for. And the best part? They were standing on it. I opened the folder just enough for Karen to see the first page, and the color drained from her face. It wasn't anything dramatic yet, just a county seal and an old survey map, but she clearly wasn't expecting any paperwork from me. Before she could ask, one of her officers stepped forward and tried to snatch it. I pulled it back and said, "Touch this and you'll regret it." He froze, confused, like no one had ever talked to their pretend police force like that. Karen recovered fast and snapped, "That paper means nothing. This land is part of our planned community. The HOA has full authority." She sounded confident, but I could hear that slight shake behind her words. She didn't know what I had, but she feared it. People started gathering closer, curious now, especially after hearing me say she'd made a mistake. One old man whispered, "Who is he?" And Karen quickly barked, "Nobody, just a trespasser." She wanted to keep control, but control was slipping fast. I pulled out the second document, unfolded it slowly, and let the signatures show. A woman in the crowd gasped. Karen stepped closer like she needed to see it better, but refused to admit it. So I helped her. I held the page forward and said, "This is the original land title. Filed in 1972, maintained every year. Not one sale, not one transfer, not one deal with your HOA." The crowd reacted first. Soft gasps, whispers, someone muttering, "Wait, what?" But Karen didn't blink. She just crossed her arms and said, "I don't care what old paper you bring. The HOA owns these lots." That's when I dropped the real punch. "This isn't about the lots," I said. "It's about the land under those lots. And all of this?" I gestured around. Cabins, pathways, small fences, even the fake patrol cars parked near the entrance. All of this is still on my property. Her officers finally looked nervous. One of them even stepped back. Karen didn't. She doubled down.
"You're lying," she said. "You think you can scare me with documents? We run this place. We built everything here." Her voice got louder, sharper, and she didn't realize her own people were now filming her. She noticed the cameras and yelled, "Stop recording and go back inside." Nobody moved. I watched her losing the crowd, and then I opened the next paper, my grandfather's will. The page that clearly stated the inheritance of 1,000 acres, mapped precisely to where their entire HOA sat. I held it up so everyone could see the highlighted lines. A man walked up slowly, squinted at the text, and whispered, "Karen, that's our whole community." Karen's face finally cracked, but she wasn't done. She wasn't going to let me win, not in front of everyone. She stepped closer, lowered her voice, and hissed, "If you don't leave right now, we'll make sure you regret ever showing your face here." Her threat wasn't loud, but it was venomous enough to tell me she wasn't just entitled, she was dangerous. And she still didn't know the one twist that would end this entire fight instantly. The real reason I came today.
I leaned against my truck, letting her threat hang in the air. She thought she had scared me into silence, but she had no idea what was coming next. I pulled out one more document from the folder, this one in a sealed plastic sleeve, and Karen's eyes locked on it like she sensed danger. Before I could speak, one of the fake officers tried to puff up his chest and said, "Ma'am, should we detain him?" His voice shook. He didn't want to, but Karen's glare pushed him forward. The moment he raised his hand toward me, everything shifted. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out a small leather wallet, black, official-looking. Karen's lips curled, ready to mock me, but the second I flipped it open, the entire world around us froze. The badge gleamed under the sunlight, the federal seal unmistakable, a real, legitimate federal land authority badge, the kind people don't argue with. Karen blinked fast, like she couldn't process what she was seeing. No, that's fake," she whispered, but her voice cracked on the last word. The crowd reacted first. Someone gasped, a woman stepped back, and the old man who had been watching quietly murmured, "Oh, Lord, that's real." Karen's officers, they scattered, literally stepped away from me like I was radioactive. One even mumbled, "I didn't sign up for this," before backing into a tree. I spoke calm, low, and deadly clear. "Your HOA built illegal structures on federal protected land, my land, and you've been charging people fees for property you don't even own." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked like she needed air. I held up the official notice. "This is the official notice filed months ago. Your HOA was supposed to vacate this area, but you ignored it. You kept expanding, you kept collecting money, and you kept pretending you had power." Someone in the crowd whispered, "You mean the HOA knew?" A ripple of anger spread. Faces changed. People looked at Karen like she had been robbing them blind this whole time. Karen snapped back suddenly, panic flaring into rage. "This is a lie," she screamed. "He forged everything. He's trying to steal our homes." She tried to grab the sealed document, but I stepped back and slid it into the folder before she could touch it. "Don't ever touch federal documents," I said softly. Her eyes went wide, not with anger this time, but fear, real fear. I walked past her, straight toward the entrance gate where the HOA's big wooden sign stood proudly. "Evergreen Valley HOA, Community First." I ran my hand along the edge and then looked back at the crowd. This sign, this road, these cabins, all built without permission, and the investigation is already open. People started shouting questions. "What does that mean for us? Are we in trouble? What did Karen do?" But Karen was silent now, completely silent. She finally understood the truth. I didn't come today to warn them. I came today because the next step in the case was enforcement, and in a few minutes, they were going to hear the sirens.
Karen must have heard the sirens before anyone else, because the moment that distant echo rolled through the trees, her knees buckled. She grabbed the side of the HOA sign to steady herself, but her hands were shaking so badly she almost slipped. The crowd turned as two real county trucks and a federal SUV pulled up the dirt road. Not fast, slow, controlled, official. The kind of slow that tells you they already know everything, and they're not here to talk. Karen whispered, "No, no, no, no," like she could somehow undo the last 20 years of her fake power with a single breath. The officers stepped out calmly, clipped badges catching the sunlight, real ones, not plastic like Karen's crew. The lead agent, a tall woman in a tan jacket, walked straight toward me. She nodded once and said, "We're ready. You want to do it?" She already knew my answer. Karen looked at me with pure terror. "You called them?" I didn't even raise my voice. No, they were coming either way. I just wanted to be here when the truth finally hit you. The agent turned to the crowd and spoke firmly. "Ladies and gentlemen, your HOA has been operating illegally on federally protected and privately owned land. You are not in trouble. You're victims of fraud. You will be assisted and your housing will be secured while we process the removal of the illegal board." People gasped. A woman burst into tears. A man cursed under his breath. Someone whispered, "I knew something was wrong." Karen tried one last desperate move. She shoved past two officers and screamed, "This is my community. I built this. You can't just take it away." But the agent didn't flinch. "Ma'am, step back. You're under federal investigation for fraud, impersonation of law officials, illegal construction, and extortion." Karen froze. Not dramatic, just empty. Like her entire world had collapsed at once. The officers moved in gently but firmly, taking her hands. Her fake officers didn't even try to help. They had already slipped away behind the cabins like shadows. Someone recorded as Karen was led to the SUV, her voice cracking as she whispered, "This can't be happening." I watched her go without saying a word. Justice didn't need speeches. The crowd slowly turned to me. Dozens of strangers who had been lied to for years. One man stepped forward and said quietly, "So what happens now?" His voice wasn't angry anymore, just tired. I took a deep breath. I said, "You're staying. Nobody's getting kicked out. The land is mine, yes, but you all were tricked, not the criminals. We're going to rebuild things the right way. No more fake authority, no more fear." A soft wave of relief washed across the group. For the first time, they weren't looking at me as a stranger, they were looking at me as someone who finally ended the nightmare. The agent approached me again. "You did good coming today. People needed to see the truth with their own eyes." I nodded, glancing at the 1,000 acres around us. The land my grandfather protected, the land Karen tried to claim as her kingdom. "I just wanted to make things right," I said. "My family didn't fight for this land so someone like her could bully everyone on it." The sun dipped behind the pines, long shadows stretching across the cabins. Sirens faded into the distance. Karen was gone. The fear was gone. And for the first time, this land finally belonged to the right people again.